Picture this. You're 6 months pregnant. You've just created an algorithm worth $300 million. You walk into work one morning and discover everything you built has been deleted, vanished, gone. But here's the twist. Your boss didn't just steal your code. He gave it to a 22-year-old intern who falsified his entire college transcript. And now that intern is about to present your life's work to international investors as his own creation. You're standing there, pregnant and powerless, watching your career get handed to someone who can't even spell the programming languages you mastered. What would you do? Most women would file a complaint, maybe hire a lawyer, fight through the system for months. Rebecca Sullivan chose a different path. She decided to let them present her broken algorithm to those $300 million investors. She let them crash and burn in the most spectacular way possible, and then she bought the entire company. This is the story of how a pregnant software engineer turned workplace discrimination into the ultimate revenge, how stolen code became a weapon of corporate destruction, and how underestimating a woman protecting her unborn child became the most expensive mistake a tech CEO ever made. Stick around, because what Rebecca did next will shock you. The keyboard clicking stopped. Rebecca Sullivan stared at her monitor, fingers frozen above the keys, her breath caught in her throat. No, 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 no. The directory was empty. 3 months of code. Gone. Her revolutionary algorithm that could predict market fluctuations with 97% accuracy had been deleted. The timestamp showed yesterday at 11:43 p.m. She had left the office at 6. Someone had accessed her secure partition after hours. Her phone buzzed against the desk. Marcus Wellington's name flashed on the screen. Rebecca, my office. Now. Lassie, 6 months pregnant, she struggled to stand from her ergonomic chair. The baby kicked, as if sensing her distress. She pressed her hand to her belly and took 3 deep breaths like her doctor had recommended. The walk to Marcus's corner office felt endless. Other developers avoided eye contact. Sarah's desk sat empty, which was unusual for 8 a.m. Marcus didn't look up from his dual monitors. Close the door. She obeyed, her heart hammering against her ribs. Your code had security vulnerabilities, he said. I had 8. Remove it for company safety. Security vulnerabilities? Her voice pitched higher. I ran penetration tests weekly. That algorithm was bulletproof. Nevertheless, he finally looked at her with pale blue eyes that seemed colder than usual. Tyler Brooks has been assigned to rebuild it. Fresh perspective. Tyler, the intern, 22 years old with more ambition than skill. Marcus, that's 3 months of work. I can fix any vulnerabilities faster than the decision is final. He turned back to his screen. Perhaps you should focus on preparing for maternity leave instead of complex projects. The words hit like a physical blow. She had built Wellington Systems' entire security infrastructure. Her algorithms generated 60% of their revenue. But now, 6 months pregnant, she was suddenly incompetent. I see. Her voice came out deadly quiet. And Tyler understands machine learning optimization? He's young, motivated, unencumbered by personal distractions. Personal distractions. Her pregnancy. I'll need my code restored to continue at the... There's nothing to restore. Tyler's starting fresh. Lies. She had backed up everything to her personal encrypted drive, but admitting that would violate company policy. Walking back to her desk, she noticed the whispers, the sideways glances. Everyone knew before she did. Her phone buzzed again. Text from Sarah. Emergency coffee. Bean there, Burger Cafe, now. Rebecca checked her phone obsessively. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. The universal nervous habit when life implodes. Her hands shook as she walked to the elevator. The cafe was crowded with the morning rush. Sarah sat in the corner booth, laptop bag at her feet, tears in her eyes. Becca, there's something else you need to know about Tyler and Marcus. Sarah's hands shook as she opened her laptop in the crowded cafe corner. I shouldn't be showing you this. Screenshots filled the screen. Internal Slack messages between Marcus and Tyler from the past 2 weeks. Marcus. The Sullivan project needs to disappear before the board meeting. Tyler. All of it? Marcus. Everything. I need clean attribution for the Hong Kong deal. Tyler. What about Rebecca? Marcus. Pregnant women are distracted. Performance always drops. Board will understand. Rebecca's coffee grew cold as she read the Hong Kong deal. $300 million for her algorithm's licensing rights. Her algorithm that Marcus was now giving Tyler credit for. There's more. Sarah scrolled down. Tyler's been documenting your methodology for weeks. Screenshots, recorded screen sessions, everything. How did you get these? David forwarded them. He's been building a case, but Marcus promoted him to CTO last week. Now he's scared to move forward. David Coleman, her mentor for 5 years. The man who had encouraged her to push boundaries and take risks, now silenced by a title and stock options. Look at this timestamp. Sarah pointed to a message dated 3 weeks ago, before Rebecca had even finished the algorithm. Marcus had planned this deletion from the beginning. Her phone rang. Michael, her husband. Hey, how's the morning sickness? She couldn't tell him. Not yet. Not while pregnant and stressed. Better today. Good. Don't let Wellington work you too hard. You're growing our daughter. Our daughter. The baby they had tried for 2 years to conceive. The daughter she had dreamed of teaching to code someday. After hanging up, she stared at the screenshots again. What's Tyler getting out of this? Full-time position after graduation. Senior developer track. Your salary. Your salary. The phrase echoed in her mind. They weren't just stealing her work. They were stealing her future. Sarah, I need you to keep monitoring their communications. Document everything. What are you going to do? I'm going to rebuild my algorithm, better than before, and then I'm going to make sure Marcus Wellington never forgets the name Rebecca Sullivan. I'm not crazy. I know what I built, and I know what they're trying to steal. The baby kicked again, stronger this time. Not distress, determination. Back at the office, Tyler sat at her desk. He was using her personalized keyboard, her monitor setup, even her lucky coffee mug with her daughter's ultrasound photo taped inside. Tyler looked up from her desk with practiced innocence. Oh, hey, Rebecca. Marcus said I could use your setup while you're transitioning to lighter duties. Lighter duties. She had built this company's core infrastructure, and now she was being transitioned to lighter duties. Her ultrasound photo had been moved, just slightly, but she had memorized its exact position on the monitor's edge. I'll need my personal items back. Sure, sure. He gestured vaguely at a small cardboard box beside the desk. Her nameplate, her ergonomic wrist rest, her backup hard drives. Wait, her backup drives? She kept her expression neutral while checking the box. 3 external drives all present. But these weren't her originals. They were identical models, still in packaging. Someone had copied her backups and replaced them with empty drives. Tyler, quick question about the algorithm architecture. What's your approach to handling temporal data inconsistencies? His confident smile faltered. Oh, well, I'm still reviewing the requirements. She had written those specifications 6 months ago. Any developer touching her code would know temporal data handling was the algorithm's foundation. And the machine learning model selection? Random forest or gradient boosting? I'm exploring multiple approaches. He had no idea what he was talking about. Marcus wasn't just stealing her work. He was gambling the company's future on an intern who couldn't distinguish machine learning models. Her desk phone rang. Jennifer Walsh from HR. Rebecca, could you come to my office? Just a routine check-in. The walk to HR felt like a funeral march. Other employees suddenly found their keyboards fascinating as she passed. Jennifer's office smelled like vanilla candles and impending doom. A manila folder sat prominently on the desk. Please sit. How are you feeling? The pregnancy progressing well? Small talk. The prelude to corporate execution. Everything's fine. The baby's due in December. Wonderful. Now Marcus has expressed some concerns about your recent performance metrics. Performance metrics. She had delivered every project early for 3 years running. Jennifer opened the folder. Missed deadlines, code quality issues, communication gaps with your team. Each accusation was fabricated. But she realized the true strategy: create a paper trail justifying her termination before she could blow the whistle. I'd like to see these specific performance issues documented. Of course, here's the report Tyler submitted yesterday. Tyler's report. 5 pages of detailed criticism about code he had never seen, methodologies he couldn't understand, and timeline failures that never happened. This is interesting. Tyler mentions my algorithm's inefficient recursive loops, but the current implementation uses iterative processing. Jennifer's expression didn't change. Perhaps you could clarify that with Tyler during your transition meetings. Transition meetings. They weren't even pretending anymore. Jennifer, I need to ask directly, am I being demoted because of my pregnancy? Oh, heavens no, we're completely supportive of expecting mothers. This is purely performance-based. Pure performance. Like the performance Marcus and Tyler were orchestrating to steal $3 million in intellectual property. Walking back to her desk, Rebecca pressed both hands to her lower back, stretching slightly. The unconscious gesture every pregnant woman makes when stress meets physical discomfort. Her temporary workstation had been moved to the corner. No windows, no privacy. A clear message to everyone watching. But they had made one crucial mistake. Her personal laptop had full access to the company's development servers, and she still remembered every line of code they had deleted. That evening, Rebecca sat in her car in the garage for 20 minutes, unable to face telling Michael what had happened. The silence stretched. The garage door opener hummed. The engine ticked as it cools. Finally, she whispered to her belly, "Mommy's going to fix this." At home, her laptop showed an impossible message. Your algorithm has been submitted for patent under Tyler Brooks, primary inventor. The patent application displayed Tyler's name in bold letters. Primary inventor, filed yesterday at 4:37 p.m. Rebecca Sullivan wasn't mentioned anywhere. Michael found her at the kitchen table at 2 a.m., laptop glowing, tears streaming down her face. "Becca, what's wrong?" She couldn't speak, just pointed at the screen. He read over her shoulder, his software engineer's mind quickly grasping the implications. "They filed a patent for your work." "Not just filed. Tyler's listed as the sole inventor, like I never existed." Michael's jaw tightened. In 12 years together, she had rarely seen him truly angry. This is theft, straight-up intellectual property theft. It's more than that. She scrolled through the technical specifications. They've submitted my exact code architecture, my optimization techniques, even my variable naming conventions. But they've introduced 3 critical errors that will cause system failures under heavy load. Errors Tyler doesn't understand enough to fix? Exactly. They're about to license a broken algorithm to Hong Kong for $300 million. Michael sat beside her, processing the implications. What happens when it fails? Wellington Systems gets sued into bankruptcy. The Hong Kong investors lose their money. Tyler gets blamed for the faulty code. And Marcus? Marcus walks away clean. He can claim he trusted a young developer who overpromised and underdelivered. The baby kicked, and she realized she had been unconsciously rubbing her belly. Stress wasn't good for either of them. "We're calling Grace in the morning," Michael said. "Your sister specializes in employment law." Grace doesn't know tech industry dynamics, but she knows discrimination law, and she knows you. Rebecca's phone buzzed. Email from Marcus at 2:43 a.m. Subject, performance improvement plan. "Rebecca, effective immediately, you'll be placed on a 90-day performance improvement plan. Failure to meet objectives will result in termination. Please report to HR at 8 a.m. to review your new responsibilities. M. Wellington Performance Improvement Plan. Corporate death sentence." They were accelerating the timeline. "They're trying to fire me before I can expose the theft." Michael read the email over her shoulder. "Can they do that while you're pregnant?" "They can if they've documented enough fake performance issues." She closed the laptop. "But they made one mistake." "What's that?" "They assume I'll fight this through normal channels, HR complaints, employment lawyers, wrongful termination suits." "What are you thinking?" She smiled for the first time in days. "I'm thinking Marcus Wellington has never seen what happens when you truly piss off a pregnant software engineer with nothing left to lose. They want to destroy my career? Fine. But they picked the wrong woman to mess with. I built their empire. I can tear it down just as easily." The next morning, she called in sick. First sick day in 3 years. But instead of resting, she drove to her sister's law office. Grace Sullivan occupied the 20th floor of downtown's most prestigious legal building. Labor law had made her rich, and her track record made her feared. "Tell me everything," Grace said after the receptionist brought coffee. Rebecca outlined the deletion, the conspiracy, the patent theft, the performance improvement plan. Grace took notes, occasionally asking sharp questions. "The patent filing is the smoking gun," Grace finally said. "We can prove theft of intellectual property, but the discrimination angle is trickier." "How?" "They'll claim the performance issues preceded your pregnancy announcement. We need to prove causation." "What about the Slack messages Sarah found?" "Helpful, but they need context. We need more evidence of discriminatory intent." Rebecca hesitated. "What if I could prove their algorithm will fail catastrophically? That Tyler doesn't understand the code he's claiming credit for?" "How?" "I could introduce subtle errors in the optimization routines. Errors that won't surface during testing, but will cause massive failures under real-world load." Grace leaned back. "That's sabotage. That's justice." Grace unconsciously touched her own belly. She had been pregnant 3 years ago when fighting a similar case, and the gesture connected her to Rebecca's vulnerability. "There's another option," Grace said slowly. "What if instead of sabotage, we let Tyler's incompetence speak for itself? Meaning, give him enough rope to hang himself, and document everything when he does." Back at Wellington Systems, Rebecca discovered Marcus had called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow to fast-track the Hong Kong deal using Tyler's improved algorithm. The email had been sent to all senior staff except her. Emergency board meeting, tomorrow at 10 a.m. Tyler Brooks would present the revolutionary new algorithm to secure immediate approval for the Hong Kong licensing deal. Rebecca stared at her laptop screen in the company parking lot. She had driven in despite calling sick, knowing Marcus would accelerate everything once she was out of the picture. Sarah's text confirmed her suspicions. "They're panicking. David's been asked to prepare technical documentation overnight. Tyler looks terrified." Of course Tyler looked terrified. He was about to present complex machine learning concepts he didn't understand to a board of investors who would ask detailed questions. But Marcus had a solution for that too. Another email, this one internal to the development team. "All technical questions during tomorrow's presentation will be directed to David Coleman, CTO. Tyler will handle high-level overview only." Perfect. David would provide technical credibility while Tyler took credit. Marcus would close the deal based on stolen work, unless the algorithm failed during the demo. Rebecca opened her development environment and accessed the server logs. Tyler had been making changes to her code for 3 days. Small modifications, mostly cosmetic. He was trying to put his fingerprints on her work without understanding its underlying logic. One change caught her attention. He had optimized the temporal data processing by removing what he assumed were redundant validation checks. Those weren't redundant. They were fail-safes preventing catastrophic memory overflow under high-volume processing. Her phone rang. David Coleman. "Rebecca, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Okay." "The algorithm Tyler's presenting tomorrow, is it going to work?" Direct question. David suspected but couldn't prove what was happening. Define work. "Will it perform as promised in the Hong Kong demo?" She chose her words carefully. "The algorithm will run exactly as Tyler has configured it." Silence on the line. David understood the implications. "Jesus, Rebecca, what has Marcus gotten us into?" "You tell me. You're the CTO now." "I never wanted this promotion." "He offered it right after your code disappeared." "I should have refused." "But you didn't." "No, I didn't. And now I'm complicit in something that's going to destroy people's careers." "Not people. Women, pregnant women who built the technology you're about to license." More silence. "Then what can I do?" "You could tell the board the truth. Marcus will destroy me. I've got a mortgage, kids in college. I've got a baby coming and no job security. But I'm still going to fight this." "How?" "By being in that boardroom tomorrow when Tyler's algorithm fails." "You weren't invited." "I'm still an employee, and I'm going to exercise my right to observe board meetings regarding projects I developed." "Marcus will throw you out." "Let him, in front of investors. While I'm visibly pregnant, that'll look great for the company's discrimination lawsuit." After hanging up, Rebecca sat in the parking lot watching other employees arrive for work. Normal people with normal jobs, unaware that their company's future depended on a stolen algorithm modified by someone who didn't understand it. She counted their cars, 37 employees, 37 families depending on Wellington Systems surviving what was about to happen. That evening, she prepared for war. Grace had overnighted a legal packet, discrimination complaint forms, intellectual property theft documentation, and a cease and desist letter regarding the fraudulent patent application. Michael helped her organize the evidence, screenshots of Tyler's code changes, documentation of her original algorithm's architecture, timestamps proving she had developed everything before Tyler joined the company. "You sure about this approach?" he asked. "They're betting that I'll stay quiet to protect my job, but they already destroyed my job. Now I've got nothing to lose and everything to expose. What if the algorithm doesn't fail? What if Tyler gets lucky?" She pulled up the code analysis on her laptop. "It's not about luck. Tyler removed the memory management protocols I spent 6 weeks optimizing. Under demo conditions with limited data, the algorithm will run fine. But with real-world volume, millions of transactions per second, it'll crash within hours." And then Hong Kong investors realize they have licensed defective software. Wellington Systems faces breach of contract lawsuits. Stock price collapses. Marcus loses everything. While you're unemployed and pregnant. While I'm free to start my own company with investors who'll pay triple for an algorithm that actually works. Rebecca performed the pregnant woman's bedtime ritual, turning from side to side trying to find a comfortable position. The universal struggle every pregnant woman knows, while her mind raced with tomorrow's confrontation plans. At 3 a.m., her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Meeting boardroom tomorrow. Bring evidence. Trust no one. A friend." The text came from a burner phone. Untraceable number. But someone inside Wellington Systems knew about her situation and wanted to help. Rebecca stared at the message until Michael stirred beside her. "Who's texting at 3 a.m.? "I don't know. Someone who knows about tomorrow's board meeting." Michael read the message over her shoulder. "Could be a trap. Marcus trying to get you to bring evidence he can confiscate. Or someone with their own agenda." She had learned not to trust anyone at Wellington Systems, but desperation made strange allies. At 7 a.m., she dressed carefully. Professional blazer that emphasized her pregnancy, hair pulled back severely, no makeup except lipstick. She wanted to look pale, stressed, victimized. Grace had coached her on optics. Pregnant women facing discrimination get sympathy from investors. Use that. The Wellington Systems parking lot buzzed with unusual activity, 3 luxury cars she didn't recognize. The Hong Kong investors had arrived early. Inside, the atmosphere felt electric. Employees whispered in clusters. Tyler paced near the conference room, reviewing notes frantically. Sarah intercepted her at the elevator. "What are you doing here? Marcus said you were sick." "I got better. Amazing what a good night's sleep can do." "Rebecca, he's furious you're here. He's already talking about security." "Let him call security. That'll look great, removing a pregnant employee from observing a meeting about her own work." The elevator opened. David Coleman stood inside, looking haggard. "Rebecca, you shouldn't be here." "Says who?" "Says the man who signs my paychecks." She stepped into the elevator. "Then you better make sure those paychecks keep coming." Floor 18, executive conference room. Through the glass walls, she could see Marcus gesturing animatedly to 3 American businessmen in expensive suits. Tyler sat at the presentation computer, looking green. "David," she said quietly, "when Tyler's demo fails, are you going to take responsibility?" "The demo won't fail. I've tested the algorithm myself." "With how much data?" "Standard test data sets. A few thousand transactions. International markets process 40 million transactions daily." David's face went white. 40 million? That's what they're paying $300 million for. Real-world scale, not toy data sets. The elevator opened. Marcus stood waiting, his face thunderous. "Rebecca, you're not authorized for this meeting. I'm an employee observing a presentation of technology I developed. You're a contractor on performance improvement. Your presence isn't required. Contractor. He had demoted her to contractor status overnight. Then I'll observe from my desk. She pointed through the glass wall. Her former desk, now Tyler's, had a clear view of the conference room. Marcus couldn't argue without looking petty. He stepped aside, jaw clenched. At Tyler's desk, she had perfect audio through the intercom system he had left active. Every word of the presentation would be clearly audible. Her phone buzzed. Text from the unknown number. Check your email now. New message in her inbox. From a Wellington Systems internal address she didn't recognize. The subject line made her heart race. Tyler Brooks, academic fraud documentation. The email contained Tyler's complete academic record, fabricated grades in advanced computer science courses, falsified recommendations from professors. Even his college thesis was plagiarized. Marcus had hired an intern with fake credentials to steal her algorithm. But that wasn't the most shocking revelation. The email signature revealed her mysterious ally, Amanda Thompson, tech journalist, Forbes magazine. Amanda had been investigating Tyler for weeks. Academic fraud led to employment. Fraud led to intellectual property theft. The story was already written. I'm waiting only for today's board meeting to provide the conclusion. I'm not paranoid. There really is a conspiracy, and now I have proof. Through the glass wall, she watched Marcus call the meeting to order. The international investors sat attentively as Tyler connected his laptop to the projector. Her phone buzzed again. Amanda Thompson. Recording everything. When the algorithm fails, I'll need your statement for the article. When, not if. Tyler began his presentation with obvious nervousness. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity to present our revolutionary predictive algorithm. Revolutionary. Her algorithm, described by someone who hadn't written a single original line of code. Rebecca unconsciously placed both hands on her belly, feeling the baby kick as stress hormones surged. The universal protective gesture pregnant women make when confronting threats to their future. The presentation proceeded smoothly through the theoretical overview. Tyler had memorized her documentation well, but theory was easy. Implementation was where frauds exposed themselves. Robert Harrison, the lead international investor, raised his hand. Mr. Brooks, can you walk us through the temporal data processing methodology? Tyler's confident smile wavered. Certainly, the temporal processing utilizes advanced algorithms to handle time-based data inconsistencies. Meaningless word salad. Harrison exchanged glances with his colleagues. More specifically, Harrison continued, how do you prevent memory overflow during high-volume processing periods? Tyler looked desperately at David, but David couldn't answer without revealing the removed fail-safes. The algorithm self-optimizes to prevent any overflow scenarios, Tyler stammered. Rebecca almost laughed. Self-optimization. Tyler had just claimed her algorithm was sentient. Harrison requests a live demonstration with real international trading data. Tyler's hands shake as he begins uploading 40 million transaction records into the system. Excellent, Harrison said. We've brought a sample of our actual trading data. 43 million transactions from last quarter. Let's see your algorithm in action. Tyler's face went ashen. Beside him, David shifted uncomfortably. Well, typically we use smaller data sets for demonstrations. Mr. Brooks, Harrison interrupted smoothly, we're licensing this technology for $300 million. I assume it can handle the volume we'll be processing daily. Marcus stepped in. Of course, Tyler, please proceed with the full data set. No escape. Tyler's hands visibly shook as he loaded the data file. 43 million records began uploading to the system. Through the intercom, Rebecca heard every word. Her algorithm, the real version with proper fail-safes, could process this data in 18 minutes. Tyler's modified version would crash in 5. The upload completed. Tyler clicked Execute Analysis. The system hummed to life. Processing indicators showed normal operation. For 3 minutes, everything looked perfect. Then the memory usage indicators began climbing. 60%, 70, 80. Tyler noticed first, frantically clicking refresh on the monitoring dashboard. Just optimizing the data structures. 90%, 95. David leaned over, whispered something urgent. Tyler's face went white. Perhaps we should use a smaller sample, Tyler suggested weakly. Absolutely not, Harrison replied. This is precisely the volume our production systems require. 98%, 99. Through the glass wall, Rebecca watched Marcus realize something was catastrophically wrong. His eyes found hers across the office space. She gave him her brightest smile. Memory usage hit 100%. The system froze. Every screen in the conference room displayed the same error message. Memory overflow. Process terminated. System recovery required. Silence filled the conference room. Harrison's expression remained professionally neutral, but his colleagues began whispering rapidly. Technical difficulties happen, Marcus said quickly. David, can you restart the system? David tried. The algorithm had crashed so hard it corrupted the server's memory allocation. Full system restart required. 20 minutes minimum. Mr. Wellington, Harrison said calmly, we've been evaluating predictive algorithms for 18 months. I've never seen one crash so catastrophically on standard production data. This is highly unusual. Tyler, explain what went wrong. Tyler looked like he might vomit. The data volume exceeded. There might be a configuration issue. What kind of configuration issue causes complete system failure? Harrison pressed. Tyler had no answer. He didn't understand the code well enough to explain its failures. Rebecca's phone buzzed. Amanda Thompson. Got everything recorded. When do you want to go on record about the theft? Now. The answer was now. In the silence that followed, the only sounds were the air conditioning humming, Tyler's rapid breathing, and the distant keyboard clicking from the main office. Rebecca felt the baby kick, a reminder of what she was fighting for. She stood from Tyler's desk and walked to the conference room. Every eye turned to her as she knocked on the glass door. Marcus's face showed pure fury, but he couldn't refuse her entry in front of investors without looking unprofessional. Gentlemen, she said, addressing the international investment team directly, I believe I can explain the system failure. And you are? Harrison asked. Rebecca Sullivan, senior software developer. I'm the original architect of the algorithm you just watched crash. The room went dead silent. Mr. Brooks, Harrison turned to Tyler, you said you developed this algorithm. Tyler opened his mouth, but no words came. There seems to be some confusion, Marcus interjected. Rebecca worked on early prototypes, but Tyler led the development team. Interesting, Harrison said. Ms. Sullivan, can you explain why the algorithm failed? Certainly. The system crashed because someone removed the memory management protocols I spent 6 weeks optimizing. Without those fail-safes, high-volume processing causes cascading memory overflow. She pulled out her laptop, opened her original code documentation. Here's the architecture as I designed it, and here's what Tyler modified. Harrison studied both versions. As a former software engineer himself, he immediately spotted the critical differences. Mr. Brooks, Harrison said quietly, did you remove these memory management protocols? Tyler looked desperately at Marcus. No help was coming. I was optimizing the code for efficiency by removing the safety mechanisms that prevent exactly this type of failure. Ms. Sullivan, Harrison turned back to her. When did you develop this algorithm? I began work 14 weeks ago. Full implementation was completed 9 weeks ago, 3 weeks before Mr. Brooks joined the company as an intern. I built this. Every line of code, every optimization, every fail-safe. And they thought they could steal it because I'm pregnant and vulnerable. The international investors began conferring in rapid discussion. Marcus looked like he was watching his empire crumble in real time, which Rebecca realized he was. Harrison stood and addressed Marcus directly. Mr. Wellington, we'll need to discuss some serious concerns about intellectual property ownership before proceeding further. Harrison's words hit the conference room like a bomb. Intellectual property ownership concerns meant the international investors suspected fraud. Marcus tried to maintain control. Gentlemen, there's obviously been a misunderstanding about development roles. Has there? Harrison opened his tablet, scrolled through documents. Ms. Sullivan, we'd like to understand the timeline more clearly. You said you completed the algorithm 9 weeks ago? Correct. I can provide server logs, code commits, and version control history proving every development milestone. Tyler tried to speak. She worked under my supervision. Mr. Brooks, Harrison's voice carried ice. You've been employed here for exactly 3 weeks. Unless you possess time travel capabilities, you couldn't have supervised 14 weeks of development. The other international investors weren't whispering anymore. They were staring at Marcus with expressions that promised lawsuits. Marcus, David Coleman finally spoke up, I think we need to clarify the actual development history. Marcus shot David a warning look, but David continued anyway. Rebecca Sullivan is the lead architect and sole developer of this algorithm. Tyler Brooks was assigned to document her work for knowledge transfer purposes. Knowledge transfer. Even David was spinning the truth to save his own career. But Harrison was too experienced for corporate doublespeak. Mr. Coleman, are you saying Mr. Brooks plagiarized Ms. Sullivan's work? I'm saying there may have been confusion about attribution. There's no confusion, Rebecca interrupted. Tyler Brooks submitted a patent application listing himself as primary inventor of my algorithm. That's not confusion. That's theft. She pulled out the patent documents Grace had prepared. Filed 3 days ago, zero mention of my contributions. Complete appropriation of intellectual property I developed while employed by Wellington Systems. Harrison examined the patent filing. His expression grew colder by the page. Mr. Wellington, are you aware your employee filed fraudulent patent claims? Marcus's composure finally cracked. Tyler acted without authorization. This is a rogue employee situation. Rogue employee? Tyler's voice cracked. You told me to file the patent. You said Rebecca was being transferred to light duties. The room exploded into chaos. Tyler had just admitted Marcus orchestrated the theft. Rebecca's hand instinctively went to her lower back, supporting her pregnancy weight while standing through the confrontation. The universal pregnant woman gesture that highlighted her vulnerability in this corporate battlefield. Harrison raised his hand for silence. Ladies and gentlemen, we're witnessing either gross negligence or deliberate fraud. Either way, this licensing deal is suspended pending investigation. Suspended? Marcus's voice pitched higher. We have contracts, commitments. We have a $300 million agreement for technology that doesn't work, developed by someone who apparently stole it from a pregnant employee. Harrison stood. Our legal team will be in contact. The international investors filed out without another word. $300 million walked out the door with them. Marcus turned on Rebecca with fury. Congratulations. You've just destroyed this company. I didn't destroy anything. You did. When you decided my pregnancy made me expendable. You're fired. Security will escort you out. Actually, Grace Sullivan appeared in the doorway. She's not fired. She's filing a discrimination complaint with the EEOC. Grace. Her sister had been watching from the lobby, waiting for the perfect dramatic moment. In a theft of intellectual property lawsuit, in a fraudulent patent claim, and depending on what the international investors decide, possibly criminal charges for wire fraud. Marcus looked around the room desperately. David avoided eye contact. Tyler had slumped into a chair, realizing his career was over before it started. This is extortion, Marcus stammered. This is justice, Grace replied calmly. My client built technology worth hundreds of millions. Your company tried to steal it because she's pregnant. That's going to be an expensive mistake. Amanda Thompson stepped into the conference room, recording device visible. Mr. Wellington, I'm Amanda Thompson from Forbes. I've been investigating academic fraud in the tech industry. Would you care to comment on Tyler Brooks' falsified credentials? Academic fraud. The final nail in the coffin. Marcus stared at Amanda's recorder. No comment. What about your hiring practices? Do you typically employ interns with fabricated academic records to steal intellectual property from pregnant employees? Security, Marcus shouted. But security was smart enough to stay away from a pregnant woman, her lawyer sister, and a national technology journalist. They thought I was weak because I'm pregnant. They forgot pregnant women are protecting the future. That makes us dangerous. Grace handed Marcus a thick legal packet. Cease and desist on all use of Rebecca's algorithm. Withdrawal of Tyler's fraudulent patent application. Full restoration of Rebecca's position and back pay. We'll also need access to all communications between you and Tyler regarding the theft. And if I refuse, then we'll see you in federal court. Discrimination, theft, fraud. The Forbes article will publish either way. Marcus looked at the packet like it contained radioactive material. Amanda Thompson stepped closer. Mr. Wellington, one more question. How many other pregnant employees have you reassigned to lighter duties after they developed valuable technology? The color drained from Marcus's face. He had just realized this wasn't about one algorithm theft. This was about a pattern of discrimination that could destroy him personally. Rebecca sat in the empty conference room after everyone left, listening to the building's normal sounds returning. Phones ringing, keyboards clicking, people working normal jobs. She placed both hands on her belly and whispered, "Mommy won. Now we can build something better." Her phone buzzed with a text from Robert Harrison. "Ms. Sullivan, our investors would like to discuss licensing your algorithm directly. Would you be available for dinner tonight?" The text from Harrison changed everything. Not revenge, opportunity. Rebecca sat in her car in the Wellington Systems parking lot, reading the message again. The international investors wanted to license her algorithm directly, not through Wellington Systems. Through her. Her phone rang. Grace calling from the lobby. "How badly do you want to destroy Marcus completely?" "What do you mean?" "Harrison's offer isn't just business. It's strategic. If you license directly to the international consortium, Wellington Systems loses their biggest potential contract. Stock price will collapse. Marcus will face shareholder lawsuits for mismanagement. And Tyler? Tyler's finished. Academic fraud, patent fraud, theft of intellectual property. No tech company will touch him." Rebecca felt the baby kick. Her daughter would grow up knowing her mother hadn't just fought back. She had won. "Grace, set up the meeting, but I have conditions." "What kind of conditions?" "I want to buy Wellington Systems when the stock price crashes. I want to hire every employee Marcus fires when he tries to cut costs. And I want to offer Tyler one chance at redemption." "Tyler, after everything he did?" "Tyler's 22 and stupid. Marcus is 45 and evil. There's a difference." That evening, Harrison's team met her at the downtown Four Seasons. 3 international investors, 2 patent attorneys, and 1 venture capitalist who specialized in intellectual property licensing. "Ms. Sullivan," Harrison began over appetizers, "we've verified your algorithm's development history. Your original code with proper fail-safes processes our data flawlessly. In 18 minutes," she confirmed, "with 97% accuracy on market predictions. We'd like to license the technology for 5 years, exclusive rights for international markets." The venture capitalist slid a contract across the table. The number made Rebecca's eyes widen. $50 million, upfront licensing fee, plus royalties. $50 million for 18 minutes of flawless processing that Tyler had destroyed with amateur modifications. "There's one complication," Harrison continued. "Wellington Systems claims ownership of the algorithm through your employment contract." "That's not a complication," Grace interjected. "That's leverage. Rebecca can grant licensing rights independently while employed. But if Wellington Systems fires her for discrimination, they lose all claim to future developments." The patent attorney nodded approvingly. "Elegant solution. The discrimination complaint actually strengthens her intellectual property position." Harrison smiled. "Ms. Sullivan, I believe you're about to become very wealthy." "And very powerful," the venture capitalist added. $50 million in startup capital could fund a serious competitor to Wellington Systems." A competitor. She had never considered that possibility. "What would you need to build a competitive firm?" Harrison asked. "Experienced developers who understand my methodologies, computing infrastructure, and about 40 employees who are about to lose their jobs when Wellington Systems implodes." "The developers currently working at Wellington?" "Exactly. Marcus will fire half the company trying to stay solvent. I'll hire them at competitive salaries with equity participation." Grace leaned forward. "Rebecca, are you talking about launching a startup?" "I'm talking about launching a revolution." The baby kicked again, stronger this time, her daughter approving of Mommy's business plans. "There's one more thing," Rebecca continued. "I want to offer Tyler Brooks a junior developer position." The table went quiet. "After he tried to steal your work?" Harrison asked. "Tyler's a symptom, not the disease. Marcus exploited his ambition and inexperience. Give Tyler proper mentorship under someone who won't ask him to commit fraud, and he might become a decent programmer. That's remarkably generous. That's strategic. Tyler knows Marcus's other schemes. He knows which developers are being discriminated against. He knows where the bodies are buried. The venture capitalist smiled, and a reformed whistleblower makes excellent press for your new company's culture. Rebecca unconsciously did what every pregnant entrepreneur does. One hand on her belly, one hand signing documents that would secure her baby's future. The universal multitasking gesture of expecting mothers building empires. Contracts were signed over dessert, $50 million in licensing fees, exclusive development rights, and a commitment to fund her startup with an additional $20 million in Series A investment. Walking back to her car, Grace shook her head in amazement. You just turned workplace discrimination into the best thing that ever happened to you. I turned workplace discrimination into a cautionary tale about underestimating pregnant women. What's your first move? Tomorrow morning, I'm walking into Wellington Systems and offering to buy the company. With what leverage? Marcus is about to face shareholder lawsuits, regulatory investigation, and public humiliation. I'm going to offer him a way out that lets him salvage some dignity. And if he refuses, then I'll destroy him completely and buy the company from the bankruptcy court. They wanted to make me invisible. Instead, they made me unstoppable. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Emergency, Marcus just called all-hands meeting for tomorrow morning. Massive layoffs expected. David's been fired. Tyler's having panic attack in the bathroom. The empire was collapsing faster than expected. At home, Rebecca and Michael sat in the nursery they had been preparing, surrounded by baby furniture and dreams of their daughter's future. The contrast was surreal, planning a peaceful baby's room while orchestrating the downfall of a corrupt company. She's going to grow up knowing her mother never backed down, Rebecca whispered to her belly. At 6 a.m., Rebecca's phone rang. Marcus Wellington calling personally. His voice was broken. Rebecca, we need to talk. I think we can reach an arrangement. Marcus's voice sounded hollow through the phone. Rebecca, I've made mistakes, serious mistakes, but destroying the company hurts everyone. I'm not destroying anything, Marcus. I'm fixing what you broke. What do you want? Your resignation, Tyler's severance package instead of criminal charges, and first option to buy Wellington Systems when the stock price bottoms out. Silence stretched across the line. You want to buy the company? I want to rebuild it with proper leadership, proper values, and proper respect for pregnant employees. The board will never approve. The board will approve anything that saves them from shareholder lawsuits, especially when Forbes publishes Amanda Thompson's article this afternoon. Marcus's breathing grew ragged. What about the employees? Sarah, David, all the developers? I'll offer positions to everyone you haven't fired, better salaries, equity participation, and a company culture that doesn't discriminate against women. And me? You get to resign quietly with a modest severance, or you get to fight federal discrimination charges while your company crumbles around you. The choice was obvious. At 9 a.m., Rebecca walked into Wellington Systems carrying a leather briefcase and wearing her best maternity business suit. Heads turned as she passed through the office space. Sarah intercepted her at the elevator. Rebecca, what's happening? Marcus called emergency meetings all morning. Half the senior staff is cleaning out their desks. Change is happening. Good change. The elevator doors opened to reveal Tyler Brooks, red-eyed and carrying a cardboard box. Tyler, she said gently, wait for me in conference room B. We need to talk. I'm fired. Security's escorting me out. Security works for me now. Tyler's confusion was evident, but he nodded and headed for the conference room. The boardroom buzzed with nervous energy. 5 board members, 2 attorneys, and Marcus looking like he had aged 10 years overnight. Gentlemen, Rebecca began, taking her seat at the head of the table. I'm here to discuss the acquisition of Wellington Systems. The lead board member, Robert Morrison, cleared his throat. Ms. Sullivan, while we appreciate your interest, you are hardly in a position to acquire a company of this size. She opened her briefcase and distributed copies of the international licensing agreement. $50 million in immediate capital, plus the commitment for Series A funding. Actually, I'm in an excellent position. And given that your stock price will drop 70% when the Forbes article publishes, I'm the only viable buyer you'll have. Morrison studied the contracts. 70 million in available capital. That's more than our current market cap, which will be cut in half by noon today. Marcus finally spoke. What are your terms? Full acquisition at current market price minus projected losses from the international deal cancellation. All employee contracts honored at current salaries plus 10% raises. Complete management restructure. And current management? Marcus resigns immediately with 6 months severance. David Coleman gets promoted to Chief Technology Officer under my leadership. Tyler Brooks gets a second chance as junior developer with strict supervision. Tyler? Morrison looked confused. The intern who falsified his credentials? The intern who was manipulated by unethical management into committing fraud. There's a difference. She pulled out another document. I've also prepared a comprehensive diversity and inclusion policy. No more light duties for pregnant employees. No more stolen credit for women's innovations. No more discrimination disguised as performance management. The room fell silent as the board members processed the implications. Ms. Sullivan, Morrison said finally, you're essentially proposing to save us from our own misconduct. I'm proposing to buy a company with excellent employees and terrible leadership. Fix the leadership, restore the culture, and Wellington Systems becomes profitable again. Her phone buzzed. Amanda Thompson's Forbes article had just published how academic fraud and pregnancy discrimination nearly destroyed a tech company. Morrison's phone began ringing immediately, shareholders demanding answers. Gentlemen, Rebecca said calmly, you have about 30 minutes before your stock price enters free fall. I suggest we expedite this discussion. 25 minutes later, she owned Wellington Systems. Walking through the office space as the new CEO, she felt every eye following her. Some confused, some hopeful, some terrified. She called an all-hands meeting for 2 p.m. First, though, she had a conversation to finish. Tyler sat in conference room B looking like a broken man. At 22, his career was over before it started. Tyler, she began, sitting across from him, you have two choices. Disappear and hope no one connects your name to academic fraud, or stay and rebuild your reputation through honest work. Why would you offer me anything? I stole your algorithm. You did what Marcus told you to do. Young people make stupid decisions when authority figures pressure them. I falsified my grades, my recommendations, everything. Then you understand the value of truth. I'm offering you a chance to learn what ethical programming looks like. Tyler's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve redemption. Deserve has nothing to do with it. I need developers who've seen what corruption looks like. You'll never commit fraud again because you've lived the consequences. Tyler unconsciously pushed his glasses up his nose repeatedly. The nervous gesture of young programmers facing life-changing moments, exactly what Rebecca had done at 22 when facing her first major career decision. At the all-hands meeting, she stood before 43 employees whose futures hung in the balance. My name is Rebecca Sullivan. As of this morning, I'm your new CEO. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Wellington Systems has incredible talent, innovative technology, and enormous potential. What we lacked was ethical leadership. That changes today. She outlined her vision: competitive salaries, equity participation for all employees, transparent promotion criteria, and zero tolerance for discrimination. Some of you are wondering about Marcus. He's resigned to pursue other opportunities. Some are wondering about Tyler. He's staying as a junior developer with full transparency about his past mistakes. Sarah raised her hand. What about the international deal? Canceled with Wellington Systems, but I've licensed the algorithm directly to international investors for $50 million. That money funds our operations, your raises, and our expansion plans. David Coleman spoke up from the back. What's our first priority? Building the best predictive analytics company in the industry. We have the technology, the talent, and now the funding. We're going to revolutionize how businesses understand market patterns. They tried to steal my future. Instead, they gave me an empire. The baby kicked as she concluded the meeting. Her daughter would grow up knowing her mother had turned discrimination into triumph, theft into justice, and corporate corruption into a billion-dollar business. 6 months later, Sullivan Analytics had 3 major licensing deals, 47 employees, and a company culture that Forbes called the gold standard for tech industry ethics. Tyler Brooks had become one of their most dedicated programmers, working under Sarah's mentorship to rebuild his skills with integrity. Marcus Wellington had started a consulting firm that failed within 3 months. No one in the tech industry would work with him. And Rebecca Sullivan, holding her 3-month-old daughter during a board meeting via video call, had proved that underestimating a pregnant woman's determination was the most expensive mistake a corrupt CEO could make. As the story ended, Rebecca did what every new mother entrepreneur does. She typed one-handed while holding her sleeping baby, building an empire while nurturing the future. The ultimate multitasking moment that working mothers everywhere recognize as their daily reality. The algorithm that Marcus tried to steal had indeed destroyed his empire, just not the way he had planned. Rebecca's story proves that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success. She turned her greatest vulnerability into her greatest strength. She transformed workplace discrimination into entrepreneurial triumph. And she proved that underestimating a pregnant woman is the most expensive mistake anyone can make. But Rebecca's victory isn't just her own. It's a victory for every woman who's been told she's distracted by pregnancy, every developer who's had their work stolen, every employee who's faced discrimination disguised as performance issues. If this story inspired you, if it made you believe that justice is possible, even when the system seems rigged against you, then please hit that like button. Your support helps stories like Rebecca's reach women who need to hear them most. Drop a comment below and tell us about a time you fought back against workplace discrimination. Your story might inspire someone else to find their strength. Share this with any working mothers in your life. They need to know they're not alone in this fight. And if you want more stories of women turning their worst moments into their greatest triumphs, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Because every week we bring you real stories of real women who refuse to stay silent. Remember, your career setback might just be your comeback story waiting to happen. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.